Hi everyone. It's been nearly 22 months now since I had laser eye surgery with Optical Express in Manchester. It was on November 29th, 2017. Unfortunately, a date that is just etched into my mind and my memory, and not for all the right reasons either. My experience has been absolutely horrendous. And as a result, at the moment, I have complex complications as a result of the surgery done to me by Optical Express. I'm off work as a result of it. I have severe mental health issues as a result of it, including anxiety, depression, and PTSD with suicidal intentions. You might ask why. Okay, so I wore glasses probably since sort of my mid-teens. I tried about contact lenses, which I simply couldn't get on with. I found out later why. um, and I'd always talked about getting laser eye surgery. I just did not like glasses. From a cosmetic perspective, from a practical perspective, not being able to see in the morning, just simple things like, you take your jumper off, you take your glasses off, you take your jumper off, you put your glasses back on, and I just did not get on with glasses. I scratched them because I didn't look after them proper. I just hated glasses, and I just didn't get on with contact lenses. So I talked about it for years and years and years, and I knew people had LASIK surgery or eye correction surgery and seemed to get on really well with it. And the opportunity came up. A couple of reasons why I didn't do it in the past was financial. I had a young family. Financial pressures didn't allow me to do it, or so. And I didn't have a stable prescription for a while either. So again, you need a stable prescription before you start considering any form of corrective eye surgery. You need to have several years of a consistent prescription. Anyway, so I decided at the age of 45 that I was going to do this. That I was going to do something. I was come to that point in life. Financially, we were better off. The girls were older, and I wanted to do something for myself. So I did it, and I found Optical Express. I went for the assessment, and I was told I was an ideal candidate for laser eye surgery, and I booked the surgery date there and then. I paid up front for it there and then, and I was, excited to get it done. I turned up on the day of the surgery, and I saw the surgeon, Kazmi, who did the surgery on me. He simply sat with me, ran me through a few known risks, writing on a piece of paper, went very, very quickly. As I learned later, Optical Express is basically a sausage machine of people just being shoved through and LASIK surgery done to them. And I've also learned that Optical Express is basically a second-hand car sales place for laser eye surgery. It's all about the sales. But that's that is, yeah, that's not how you do surgery or look after people's health, let alone their eye health. So anyway, he looked into my eyes. He got me to sign a small list of points, tightly typed, very small, and I initialed it and signed it. I didn't have my glasses on at that point because just before that he'd opened one eye, and said, "Let's do this," So I didn't have my glasses on. To this day, I kick myself because I should have read every single thing on that list. But I'd already read the original form that Optical Express had given me, consent form, and I didn't think there'd be anything different on there that wasn't been on the consent form from Optical Express. Anyway, I initialed it and I signed it, and we went in for the surgery. And afterwards, this is the first time he looked at my eyes through the slit lamp. And if you've had any sort of eye examination, you know what a slit lamp is. It's the thing you put your chin on and you open your eye, and it magnifies the eye surface and the lids for the person examining it. My eyes were very red. I didn't really have much pain or discomfort. Anyway, I went home and I was very positive. I did all I was told. You know, I did the drops. I did everything. And anyway, my eyes were very dry and very sore for several months afterwards. But I carried on with the drops. I battled through at work. I'm a software engineer. I do a lot of screen time. Because I thought I'd just get better. It's just months and I'd get better. Anyway, the very long story short is I never got better. Today, sort of 20 to 22 months later, I now suffer from severe dry eyes. I don't produce enough tears as a result of the surgery. So something called my Scheimer score, which is a measure of how many tears you produce over a 5-minute period. They put a little bit of blotting paper in the corner of your eyes and then measure your tear production. So today, as of sort of a month ago when I last saw my specialist in Spain, because I now have to go to Spain to get care, my Scheimer score was, I think, 3 mil in this eye and 7 mil in this eye. And it has been down to as low as 1 and 2 mil. A healthy eye should produce around 15 mil of new fresh tears in a 5-minute period. So you can see how chronically dry my eyes are. I discovered after the event, I also have something called meibomian gland dysfunction. Meibomian gland dysfunction is another type of contributing factor to dry eyes. You have, just under your eyelashes, you have something called meibomian glands, and they are responsible for producing an oil. So every time you blink and there's slight pressure on the lids, this oil is released by these glands and it coats the front of the eye. And that is designed to stabilise the tear film and to stabilise the aqueous part of your tears and stop it evaporating. Because as you can imagine, you know, your eye is being, water evaporates, and if it evaporates too quickly, your tear film is considered unstable. So this oil stabilises that. Now, meibomian dysfunction is actually very common. It's, a lot of people have it and probably don't realise, because most people are asymptomatic of it. But it means that your oil is either is thicker than it should be, or your glands aren't expressing oil in the way they should be, or you just simply lost your glands through age, or I'm a partial blinker as well, which is something I discovered after I'd had LASIK, which means when I blink, my lids don't completely close. Now, all my blinks when I was tested were partial. 16 out of 16 blinks were partial, which means the pressure on those glands isn't being asserted when you blink. So the oil wasn't getting expressed. So I've discovered I've got this MGD as well. So not only do I not produce enough tears, the tears I've got don't hang around long enough in my eye. They evaporate, break up very, very quickly. Some people have even worse. At the moment with treatment, I've managed to get my tear breakup time. So I think it was 11 seconds in my right eye and a nudge under 7 seconds in my left eye. Now, a healthy eye, probably at my age, probably should be well over 10 seconds. Ideally around 15, and a young guy should be around 20 seconds. So my right eye's not too bad now after treatment. I've taken a lot of treatment, a lot of expensive treatment, and we're talking thousands here. We're not talking hundreds, we're talking thousands. My left eye is still not great in that respect, and I have to do a lot of maintenance to keep that there. And those are average numbers, by the way, out of three tests. So if you think the 11 is the average, so obviously at one point it was actually less than that, and obviously at some point it was probably slightly more as well. That's how average works. The most upsetting thing for me, I think, is that the MGD wasn't caused by the LASIK, I would have had MGD prior to LASIK. Though I was what they call asymptomatic. I had no symptoms from it, even though my MGD is very advanced. So what that means is I have lost a lot of my melanoma glands. There is a technology that allows them to scan, a bit like an X-ray, and it allows you to. They can look at your glands using. I think it's infrared light they use, and they can actually illuminate the glands in the lids, and they can see how many you've got. You should have about 20 to 30 on each lid, I think it is, in a healthy eye, and I've lost about 60% of mine. And out of the ones that are left, only a handful are actually expressing oils. So, you know, I think on my bottom left-hand lid, I think I've been told about 5 or 6 are actually expressing oil, which is not great, you know. And I would have had this prior to LASIK, even though I wasn't showing some symptoms. Optical Express completely failed to spot my MGD. And the MGD, at best, should have come with a strong warning around doing LASIK eye surgery on eyes with MGD, because your tear film's not stable effectively, and they're doing surgery on an unhealthy eye. There's no mention of MGD. I've learned so much since probably probably April 2018. I knew nothing about dry eyes before that. I knew nothing about melanoma glands, MGD, blepharitis, Scheimer scores, tear breakup. I just did not know a thing about these things. I just lived my life, you know. And I've had to teach myself and many other people in my situation, not just dry eyes because of LASIK, but dry eyes for lots of different reasons, find they have to basically be their own health advocates, because dry eyes are very, very badly understood and badly treated condition, and specialists are not either interested or don't have the skills, or just because your sight isn't threatened and it initially isn't threatened, it's just not important to them. Anyway, so I've had this MGD. I would have had it within LASIK. Optical Express mentioned nothing about it, didn't pick it up, and even refused to acknowledge I had it prior to surgery, even though plainly you don't lose 60% of your glands in months or even years. That's taken years and years and years and years and years. Kazmi should have done another range of tests apparently before his surgery on me, and he didn't pick it up. He didn't, like I say, he didn't even look at my eyes properly before doing the surgery. So he had no chance, you know. He just, as far as he's concerned, the optometrist, Miss Abigail Hurst, has said that because I went for my assessment actually at the Trafford Centre in Manchester, though the surgery was done at St John Street in Manchester. And Abigail Hurst was the optometrist who did my assessment, and as far as she was concerned, I was an ideal candidate. Though I actually raised a complaint against her with the Optical Council, which is the governing body for optometrists. Claiming, you know, the point I was trying to make was she failed to do a proper candidacy test for me. She failed to do 2 key tests to try and see if I had, because I have mentioned that I've been told in the past that I had dry eyes, and I ticked that on the form and I declared that, thinking, well, surely if this, you know, they need to know everything about me before they can determine whether I'm an ideal candidate. Anyway, so no mention of my dry eyes was ever made during the candidacy exam or tests. And I discovered afterwards that 2 things that she didn't do was something called, that she didn't do any Scheimer testing on me, so she wouldn't know whether I was producing enough tears or not. So that's a key dry eye test. Put no staining in my eye. Now, you might have had this yourselves, but to see how healthy the eye is, you'll often have coloured staining put in. And what that is it allows the person examining your eyes to see if there are any dry spots on your cornea or your conjunctiva, and it will highlight and stick to those dry and dead cells in your eye. She didn't put any staining in my eye, and it's also used. This staining is also used to measure your tear breakup time, or one method of measuring tear breakup time. And what happens is they ask you not to blink, and they will look for the first dry spot to appear, that which is the sign that your tear film is breaking up. And they should be able to count to about, like I say, well over 10 seconds. You know, she didn't do any of these sort of tests at all, and it would have. I'm fairly confident, had those tests been done, she would have seen staining on my eye, she would have seen a low tear breakup time. I mean, at one point, this eye was just under around 5 seconds, and this eye was sort of 2 to 3 seconds before treatments that I've had done since. But none of those sort of tests were done, and I was declared, like I say, an ideal candidate. So I'm now in a right mess, basically. I have severe dry eyes. Do not for one moment think that's easy to manage or live with. It's absolutely soul destroying. And anybody who has dry eyes, whether it's due to LASIK or another reason, because there's plenty of people out there with dry eyes that are not to do with surgery. It's a horrible, horrible condition. Your eyes, you've got grit, sandy feelings, they burn, they itch. You can't look at screens for a great deal length of time, which, when I'm a software engineer, that I have to be able to sit on the screen for 8 hours a day. You know, I can't do my job anymore as a result of LASIK eye surgery. Or I struggle to do my job. Guys, so I have severe dry eyes, and I try and manage it with drops. So I've got both forms of dry eyes. I've got aqueous deficiency dry eye, I've got evaporation dry eye. And it's not uncommon for LASIK to kick existing MGD from being asymptomatic and you're living your life, you don't know about, to full-on symptoms. And that's what's happened with me. And I know quite a number of victims of LASIK this has happened to, who discover later they have this thing called MGD. I've had other complications. I have floaters as well, so I have little black spots in my eyes, though that's not as debilitating as the severe dry eye. I had at some point severe halos and starbursts, so that has settled a little bit, and I don't really have as trouble with that. I do have light sensitivity. And I have also something called corneal hyperphagia, and I found this out going to Spain to see a specialist in Spain. What you've got to understand is when you have LASIK, how invasive it actually is, and this is never explained to you by any LASIK surgeon or anyone, optometrist working for a LASIK surgeon. Your cornea is it has the most densely packed nerves at any part of your body. It is the most sensitive part of your body. There's nothing comes close to it in terms of nerve density, in terms of sensitivity, in terms of, you know, it literally is. There's just, I can't remember the numbers are, but the nerve densities and nervation of your eye, your cornea is amazing compared to anything else. So what happens when you have LASIK? And this is never explained to you by the LASIK surgeon. So they cut the flap, okay? What that does is that cuts and severs all these essential nerves that your eye needs to be healthy. And it just cuts them. Just cuts them there and then. They lift the flap and they use a suction device to lift the flap. And that actually destroys something called goblet cells. And your goblet cells are the first layer of your tear film. Sorry, the goblet cells produce mucin, which the mucin is the first layer of your tear film. It helps the wettability of the tear film. So you have mucin, water, oil, and those are the three components of your tear film. So when they lift this flap with this suction device, that actually kills these goblet cells off. Okay. Then what they do is they use another laser to carve out healthy flesh from your cornea. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, it actually means you're destroying even more nerves, making your eye even, destroying more of these nerves at your eye. So much needs to manage itself, to know when it needs to tear, when to blink, when to express these oils, when to know that something's in your eye, to react into water, and they are just, I cannot stress how important these nerves that you're having destroyed by this surgery actually are to your eye. So more of these, and then what they're doing, because they're taking flesh from your cornea, they're making your cornea thinner, okay, and that can have some serious long-term effects on your eye health, and can result in something called corneal ectasia, which essentially means irregular astigmatism. Now, that basically means is your cornea, which should be nice like that, will actually start to droop. And it will get to a point where glasses and contact lenses can't adjust you and correct this irregular astigmatism. And you have to have special lenses called scleral lenses to do it. And they're expensive and they're hard work. So they don't explain any of this to you, by the way. And then obviously they close the flap up. So at this point, I think it's something like 80-90% of your nerves in your cornea have at this point been absolutely cut and burnt and destroyed by the surgery. Now, if you're lucky, those nerves will start to repopulate back into the cornea, but that can take up to 5 years. Many clinical studies are out there. Please Google. Don't take my word for it, but it can, the independent evidence is out there, okay, about this. I am not scaremongering. Do your research. It will take 5 years, up to 5 years, for these nerve densities and these nerve lengths and your nerves to grow back into the cornea, okay? And even then, there's some evidence that they never grow back to the way they were before the surgery. So you're storing up future problems and future issues. Yeah, this is so hard for me, sorry. So I basically have corneal hyperplasia, which basically means that even after 20 months, my corneas are very desensitized. So I can actually get a piece of rolled up tissue and I can touch the center of my eye, where my pupil is, and my eyes won't react. I won't feel it, I won't blink, I won't tear. So no wonder I'm struggling, because my eyes just, and what I found out from my specialist in Spain is they do something called a confocal, I can't say the second word, confocal. It's a very advanced microscope that allows them to see the nerves in the eyes. And what I've learned is my nerves haven't grown back properly. They have something called increased torticity, which means they're too bendy. I have abnormal microbranching, and a few other issues with them. And they just haven't grown back in any way. They're not long enough, there's not enough of them. Yeah, anyway, so no wonder I'm struggling. And to be honest with you, even people who have the LASIK surgery and think it's been a raging success, their nerves are never the same again. Their nerves will never grow back in the same way. They're always weaker, more deformed than they were prior to the surgery. And again, this is storing up potential problems for the future. So what can I say about Optical Express? Well, Optical Express, quite frankly, are terrible, awful. Their aftercare is awful, they just simply would not accept that I was not a good candidate, that I had MGD prior to it. They're very dismissive. They are not interested in helping. So I think in the August of 2018, I went to see. I was in absolutely panic. My eyes were red, sore, dry, I actually, at this point, I self-taught myself about dry eyes and the treatments available. They weren't interested in providing any treatments at all. They're not interested. The most they would do for me was they would give you a bottle of drops on a visit, which I could destroy in 2 days. I was putting that many drops in. And they put something called puncture, but they offered to put puncture, which I had to ask for, by the way, but they did put puncture plugs in as well. But that's it. But they're cheap. Puncture plugs are cheap. There's nothing. I asked for a range of treatments and they just simply said, we're not going to do those things for you, And it went to their head office. Optical Express themselves have a appalling reputation. They have a whole forum. There's a forum called Optical Express Ruined My Life. Seek it out. I wish I had. There's an equivalent Facebook group. Again, Optical Express Ruined My Life. they are horrendous, and they've also been on Watchdog. They've been, they how I didn't know all this, I just do not know. They are an awful organisation with an incredibly poor reputation for care, for doing inappropriate surgery on people, and it doesn't matter if it's LASIK, or lens replacement. They are truly awful, and their aftercare is just shocking, and I just cannot explain how poor they are. And on the bigger subject of LASIK, LASIK is an incredibly, whoever does it is an incredibly, LASIK, PRK, all the refractive eye surgeries, elective refractive eye surgeries, are incredibly dangerous. There are support groups out there on Facebook. I'm in a big one called LASIK Complications, and there's 6,000 members of it, and that's the English-speaking one. There are other help groups in Spanish, in Italian, in French. On WhatsApp, there's WhatsApp groups. Just tens of thousands of people damaged by this surgery every single, not every single year, but 10,000 people have been tens and thousands of people have been damaged by this surgery, which you never hear about, ever. There have actually been 25 known suicides as a result of this surgery, okay? The last most notable one was a weather presenter in the US called Jessica Stark, who took her life after having something called smile surgery, which is the new kid on the block for refractive eye surgery. And again, she had all the complications, dry eyes, whatever, and she just took her own life, leaving 2 young children, her husband, and it's true. It's a truly awful industry, and the industry won't accept what it's doing to people's eyes and lives, and the damage it does. There is LASIKcomplications.com is a website I encourage you to go to and truly do your research. And Paula, who runs it, has herself a victim. I think she's into 17, 18 years since she's had LASIK, and she's still struggling with all the significant visual problems, dry eyes, pain. She's had them all. And she's struggling, but she's running LASIK Complications. She runs a campaign in the US. And she runs a website, and there's so much information out, and it's backed up with clinical studies as well. It's just not scaremongering. There are peer-reviewed clinical studies backing up everything she says. In the UK, there is a campaign to get this industry properly regulated and to bring it to accountability, if you like, and because it isn't regulated in the UK at all. Everyone will think it's a medical procedure and it's regulated, and there's accountability. There isn't. As far as the British government is concerned, refractive eye surgery is cosmetic surgery, and is therefore it's self-governing. That's why organisations like Optical Express, and there are plenty of them out there, can get away with what they're doing and the way they're behaving. There is a campaign in the UK run by Sasha Rade, and again, I encourage you to Google it all. It's all out there. I wish I'd discovered it before I had it. In terms of my advice to you, if you're considering this surgery, is don't. Learn to love yourself, love your glasses, love your contact lenses. And certainly if you're struggling to wear contact lenses, there's a probably good chance you've got something like MGD, which is why most people end up with, they have dry eyes of some descriptions, which makes them contact lens intolerant. Yeah. So that's been my experience of LASIK. It's been my experience of Optical Express, and I simply would beg you not to do this surgery. It is appalling, and it just ruins lives, and it's ruined my life, it's ruined the lives of thousands and thousands and thousands of others, and like I say, there's been 25 known suicides because of it. And I'm realising now I'm rambling, so I wish you the best, and Love your glasses. Take care. Bye now.